Today I'm going to be painting this pumpkin for Halloween. To start off, I'm using a dry erase marker to draw and plan out my sketch. I'm using a dry erase marker because it can be rubbed off the pumpkin to erase it. This is good because I make a lot of mistakes. This drawing will just be for planning, so it won't actually show up on the final painting, but it will help me know where to place the paint. My pumpkin looks kind of messy right now with all the dry erase marker, but I'll be covering up the whole thing in paint. To paint the pumpkin, I'm using acrylic paint. I started off with a white base layer for the ghost. Now that the paint is dry, I'm using a permanent marker to draw the outline. This won't be the final line art since I'm probably just gonna cover it up with paint later, but it will be good to know where the line should be when I go over it in the future. I tried using an ultra-fine permanent marker for the face, but the paint kept coming off no matter how lightly I pressed. I guess the marker doesn't work on top of acrylic paint, so I used a paint marker to draw the face instead. This was less precise and a lot thicker than the permanent marker, but at least I could go on top of the paint. Now that the outlines are done, I started marking down where I wanted the shadows on the ghost to be. I used a permanent marker at first, but then I switched to a paint marker. Then I used paint to add more depth to the ghost. I wanted the jack-o'-lantern to be glowing, so I used yellow paint to add light. I also used the actual pumpkin for the jack-o'-lantern instead of orange paint. Then I added highlights to the ghost and the jack-o'-lantern.
For all time's sake. As time goes by.
The jack-o'-lantern is going to be the only source of light in this painting, so I wanted to make everything else dark. This is why I painted the background a dark gray with black. Before the paint dries, I made sure to blend the colors together. The background starts really dark at the edges but gets lighter as it gets closer to the jack-o'-lantern. This gives it the look of a glowing jack-o'-lantern. I think the background took me the longest to paint because of all the blending. After painting, my outlines got all covered up, so I went over it again with a paint marker. I waited for all the paint to dry before I wrote boo. I painted it in white, then used my paint marker to add dark shadows and clean up the lines. Lastly, I added a little bit of yellow highlights to match the lighting of the scene. Final step is to add Mod Podge to the entire thing to protect the painting and seal it in. After applying it with a sponge brush, it will dry clear with a semi-matte finish. Here is the final result. This is the pumpkin before I added Mod Podge. Have a happy Halloween, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.